Here we are, another wonderful morning, getting ready to head off to work, see what we got going on. Last night was going to potentially be a very exciting night in that I was going to get some writing done, some much needed writing done, but unfortunately I had a power outage last night. My computer was of course on when the power outage happened. So when I fired my computer up last night to continue writing, I discovered that all the writing I had done on my book prior to that had been lost. And well, I shouldn't say all of it, but like my most recent progress had been lost. You know, like in those video games when you look to save and they're like, all of your unsaved progress will be lost. Exactly that happened to me. And so essentially what had to happen was I lost a whole chapter, and that means that I would have to rewrite said chapter. And there is nothing more unmotivating to me than having to write something that I feel like I've already written. That's the reason why, like, I know a lot of people will take notes on pen and paper when they get like a good idea or something, but I've never really done that, because then when it comes time to actually commit it to typing it up, I feel like I'm just writing something I've already written again. And so there's really no like benefit for me to do that, because it just kills my motivation. And so essentially I fired up my computer last night and I'm looking to do some writing, only to discover that I pretty much have to rewrite an entire chapter because it was lost thanks to the power outage. And like, I feel like I'm pretty good about saving my progress when I'm done, and I also feel like Microsoft Word should have a pretty stout like autosave function, so maybe I need to like revisit my settings there and make sure that autosave is turned on and that it's doing its thing when it needs to do its thing. But yeah, essentially I lost an entire chapter last night because of a silly power outage, and it ruined everything, and my motivation was poo. I'm working on the third Healers novel, which is something that I'm still excited about, kind of. It's hard to explain, but like essentially I really wanted to write this book in the Healer saga because it's a pivotal point in that story, but I've gotten away from writing in the third person, and I don't really feel like my strongest writing happens in the third person anymore. I've gotten kind of used to writing in the first. I did the first person with Dusty Little Wastelanders, and still to this day that's one of my favorite projects I've ever done. And then the book that I wrote after that, If Ghosts Could Cry, which is still unpublished, was in the first person. My brother Kanan was in the first person. And so I'm starting to realize that I feel like I excel in the first person, and despite all of that I am still like writing the Healer saga in the third, well, because the first two books are written in third omniscient, and so it just kind of makes sense to me to write the rest of them in the same perspective, but it just doesn't feel like it's my best work. And because of that, I just feel like I'm not putting out great work, and it's hard for me to push through it. And then like on top of all that, it's really, like I said, a pivotal point in the overarching story here that I'm telling. And so there's a lot of really important big stuff going on, and so it's gonna be a big novel, both in like events and in like the length of the book itself. And so it's gonna be a slog, and I'm kind of bummed. I'm hoping next year, between my brother Kanan and If Ghosts Could Cry, that I can get some solid books out next year. But like, to the same end, I really want to get Healers 3 done and over with, because I've been working on it now for a little over a year, if not longer than that. It keeps getting derailed by other projects that capture my interest more so than it does. And I usually do pretty good about keeping one project together at a time. That's my goal, is like one project at a time. There's no sense in trying to rush by and start 20 projects, because then you finish none of them. And so I've been good about keeping that goal going, the whole one project at a time thing. But just like I said, because I feel like Healers 3 is not my best work, it's really hard for me to motivate myself to put it together. And so, and then last night, losing a whole chapter definitely didn't feel good. I'm at like, I don't know, 47 some odd thousand words in that book now. And so I'm well over, like, when I looked it up, the official word count for a novel is 40,000 words. So that's always like a big milestone for me when I'm writing a book, is when I hit that 40,000 word mark, I know that I've written a full-length novel in the proper sense at that point, and anything past that is golden. So obviously that's a really short novel. I'm not intending to write novels that are 40,000 words long, but I know that when I reach that point, I've at least reached my goal of writing a novel. And so that was just kind of a bummer thing that happened last night, and I haven't really written anything since then. I gave my brother Kanan to my editor, and he hasn't gotten back to me on that yet either. So it's like I'm dying to do some editing on that book, but I can't because he hasn't gotten back to me there. And then I'm really wanting to do something with If Ghosts Could Cry. I'm kind of making that like my bigger like universe project. Like Stephen King has the dark tower that everything kind of plays into, and Brandon Sanderson has the Cosmere, I think is what his is called. And so like If Ghosts Could Cry would be like the start of my greater universe as a writer and as a storyteller. And I was going to leave all that for like the official publication. Like when I get officially published, that's where all that stuff will live. But the more and more I go down that road, the less and less that I know that I want to, or that like I feel like that I can or have the patience to do so. I had a sit-down coffee meet with another published author here in town, and she's traditionally published. And a lot of the stuff she was talking about wasn't exactly like what I wanted, if that makes sense. So like she was basically saying, like, even if you traditionally publish, you still have to go out and do the work and market your material. And absolutely, like I would do that anyway, but I would feel like the publisher would have some more skin in the game since they're paying me for this product, and they would help kind of lift the weight of marketing a little bit, because honestly that's been like the biggest bear this whole time, is trying to get my stuff out there and marketed. And so that's been frustrating. But like just the more that I talk to people about traditional publishing and like what it all involves, the less likely or the less I want to do it. And so I don't know, I might hold on to If Ghosts Could Cry for a while before I publish it independently, because obviously if I publish it independently, then no publisher is going to want it. They're not going to pick up work that's already been published. And so that's the weird kind of balance that I have to try and work with here, is like, do I self-publish this? Because like obviously like a publisher might pick it up after it's been self-published, but it would have to blow up into a big old thing. And at that point, what's the point? Like if it blows up into its own thing, then I can just keep self-publishing whatever the heck I want, whenever the heck I want, and I don't necessarily need a publisher at that point. The publisher for me would be a way to help blow up, because I have yet to do so. And so that whole bear. And then of course my brother Kanan will definitely come out next year. I'm going to get it all edited and get the cover art made up for it, and it's going to be a good time. But to that same end, I really wanted to reach a point where I was releasing 2 books a year. So like I wrote what was it, the year I did Healers 2? Did I do Healers 2 and Dusty Little Wastelanders that year? I feel like I did, but I don't remember so distinctively. But at any rate, my goal is to do like a start of the year release and then like a fall release. And so like something will hit in January and then something will hit around the October time is my goal. And I can start that goal with If Ghosts Could Cry and my brother Kanan, if that's what I'm wanting to do. I just need to figure out what I'm going to do with If Ghosts Could Cry. And then of course after Healers, what is the next book? I have several ideas, which I always have several ideas floating around in my head. I've got The Thirdest of Wheels, which is a book I'm really kind of excited to write, because I'm going to write it from dueling perspectives, but I'm going to do it in like a non-traditional way. And so I'm really excited to see how that book comes together. I'm essentially just going to write 2 books and then mash them up into like a mashup book thing, and I'm excited for that. And then I've got The Imperfect Stranger, which would be the next book in the If Ghosts Could Cry established universe thing, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, I'm still working on Healers 3. And my brother Kanan will probably get a sequel named My Girlfriend Olivia. And I'm honestly thinking about following Greg Mills throughout his entire high school journey, because like my brother Kanan follows him in his freshman year of high school, and then My Girlfriend Olivia would follow his sophomore year of high school. And so it's like, what's 2 more books? Would it be that difficult to write 2 more books? I don't know. I have a solid idea of what book 2 would be about, but I have no idea what books 3 and or 4 would be about. So maybe I just do 2 and we'll just call it that. But you never know. My brother Kanan could be like the book that blows up, and then I have to write 4 books because there's a demand for it. Supply and demand is a very fickle thing in storytelling, because it can cause you to keep a story going past its natural life cycle, if you will. So like, I am a firm believer that all good things must come to an end. You should plan an end to your story, and you should stick to that end. And so, but to the same end, from like a business standpoint, I get it. Like, if something blows up and it's the biggest thing in the world, you'd be an idiot not to keep writing it. I absolutely feel like that's what happened to Stranger Things and 13 Reasons Why. I think both of those shows were really just meant to be 1 season, but then they blew up into this big thing, and Netflix was like, you know, like, this is big, let's capitalize on it. People are paying attention to it, so let's do more. And what it did is it degraded the quality of the story in both cases. Like, 13 Reasons Why after season 1 was just flushed completely down the toilet. And I honestly, like, the first season I have my woes with it, but I can at least acknowledge it as a good piece of work. But then Stranger Things, it like didn't flush itself so rapidly down the toilet, but seasons 2 and 3, in my opinion, were very weak and unnecessary. And then season 4 happened, and it was like better, and like I could enjoy it. And then we'll see what season 5 has to offer. But it's just been an interesting thing for me to observe how stories can live past their life cycle, and it's because of the business portion of it. And like me in my current state, yeah, I could very easily say if I had a story that picked up and just blew up and the whole world was reading it, then yeah, I would keep it going as long as I possibly could. But like, to the same end, after I've like made my mark and established myself, then I would start sticking to the natural endings of my stories, because like, your first successful thing is always your hardest thing, if that makes sense. Like, the first time you go big is going to be the hardest because no one knows who you are. But after that first time, people start to learn who you are, and it doesn't matter so much. And so for me, like, that first time, I'm going to ride that first time high as much as I possibly can, because there's also the chance that like after that there is no other time. Like, you get your first time and the world never picks up your book again. You hope that you like acquire some hardcore fans that'll follow you to the end of your writing journey or whatever it is you're doing. But as far as like worldwide attention, like, it is very difficult to get that and to sustain it. Like, someone like Stephen King, for example, he's been writing for decades, but there's not very many writers who have been writing for decades and remained relevant whilst doing so. Like J.K. Rowling, for example, I don't feel like she's relevant anymore. Like, Harry Potter's a big deal, sure, and she's got her own kind of issues. Like, a lot of people do not like her for her personal stances on things. But like, as far as Harry Potter is concerned, like, even I feel like minus her weird personal stances, people still wouldn't really pay that much attention to her past Harry Potter. I feel like in the height of Harry Potter, she was writing non-Harry Potter books and no one was reading them. And so I feel like that's the norm. Like, you get your time in the spotlight and you do your thing with that, and then that's kind of it. And like I said, if you're lucky, you get some fans out of it who will watch you no matter what you do, what you put out, or how you put it out. They will always be there for you. But you also have just like the worldwide attention that you just won't get multiple times consistently unless you're really lucky or really good. I feel like it's probably some combination of both, whether or not you're getting the exposure that you want. but I don't know if that's so much what I want. Like to be there at least once would be good, but like to maintain it for decades, I would be thrilled if I could, but I'm not going to kick myself if I didn't. But for me right now, it's just a matter of getting noticed. Like, what can I do to just get noticed as a writer and to not be shoved under the rug or ignored? And that's the biggest goal here for me in my current writing journey. And just like keep pushing stuff out. I watched a lot of teachings that Brandon Sanderson put on YouTube, and it was honestly very kind of inspiring. Like, he said he wrote like 7 books before he finally got published, and then of course he's like, once you publish that one and it becomes something, then all the books that you've released before then become something as well, because people want to get more of your work. And so as long as I can consistently keep pushing stuff out, keep writing stuff, make sure that my stuff gets better every time, eventually when something does take off and something does get big, then the whole world will take notice and be like, hey, that guy has like 7 other books, you guys should check that out too. And that's kind of what it's all about. And I don't know, maybe I do all this work and books aren't even what take off for me, because I have my hand in so many different creative projects that it's like, honestly, like, yeah, books are great, but it's not the be all end all. I could do most anything else. And so it's a wide world, and the internet has made it wider, and I am just working to put my stamp on the world and hoping that you guys are not absolutely bored to death while I drive to work this morning. It's a rainy morning and I like the rain, but that's kind of for me, like, what I've got going on is just trying to make my creative stamp on the world, whether it be through writing, whether it be through this animation project that I've got going on, which is also writing. And like, so I watch a lot of Dan Koh's videos, and I kind of really like that guy. He's pretty cool. But he always talks about writing and how that's kind of the core stance of everything. And I don't know that he talks about writing in the sense that I write, as in like full-length novels and stuff, but like writing is writing, and it all kind of comes back to that. And so if you are a strong writer, it's a skill that you can take in multiple facets of life. Like, my business life, I think, excels because of my ability to be a strong writer. Like, the emails that I write and put together are stronger than most, and I feel like that sticks out. And I mean, I feel like it's a waste of talent. Like, ooh, I'm this big fiction writer who writes hundreds of thousands of words into a single novel, and the only way that my skill is being respected is through business emails. That sucks. But I mean, it's still something that is real, and it's still something that exists and that I can acknowledge and appreciate. And really just kind of hoping that, like I said, something happens. I am just banging my head against this internet wall until people notice, and when they do, thanks for noticing, thanks for coming by. And this has been my first drive-in to work. I am really just trying to fill out like idle time in my day with making videos. Like, I have to drive to work every day. I ought as well make a video out of it, and that helps me to batch up the things that I am doing. And so I'm also a talker. My friends tell me that I can talk and keep a conversation going, and hopefully in an interesting way, and you're not just like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch 30 seconds of this and then never tune into that again. It was raining, so now you can hear my windshield wipers, but I'm in the garage now, so I don't need my wipers going anymore. But at any rate, yeah, this has been my first drive-in. Talked a lot about writing and stuff. I feel like I had other stuff to talk to you guys about, but my entire drive was occupied by one topic, and that's me. So yeah, you guys have a good solid day today. Whatever day you're watching this on, make it a good one.